Everyone. So yeah, I'm Polymetric, and it's my talk today is SPX6900, the synergistic integration of agency and communion, a revolution in human coordination. So throughout history, social and political movements have been torn between two naturally opposing forces. So there's individuality. We want freedom of thought, but we sacrifice unity and coherence. And then on the other side, there are movements that emphasize unity, but then they tend to emphasize less freedom and trend towards more rigidity and top-down control. So this leads to a dilemma that all social movements kind of have to face, whether you're going to emphasize individuality or unity. So in this presentation, I want to argue that SPX6900 represents a revolution in how humans coordinate because it's fueled by the synergistic integration of individual flourishing and collective unity. So first, it maintains unity without any kind of top-down control. Second, it promotes individual flourishing without any sacrifice in unity. Unlike other movements in which individuality competes with unity, SPX is unique because the flourishing and unity are synergistic. So individual flourishing actually promotes unity, and the unity promotes individual flourishing. So just a little bit about me. I'm a psychotherapist, PhD candidate, and psychology researcher. My primary area of research interest is in the relationship between morality and well-being. So I'm specifically interested in how individuals integrate their conflicting motivations between self-interest and their moral beliefs and their desire to get along with others. And so today I'm going to be speaking about SPX through that lens of individual psychology. And what really interests me about SPX is that it's really like the perfect embodiment of exactly what I study in the research lab, but with individuals. And before I go on, I have to say nothing here is financial advice. This talk is intended for educational purposes only. I'm doing this talk purely because the spirit of the movement really aligns with my research interests. So yeah, in this talk, I'm going to first describe the model that I use to understand mental health and use it as a lens to understand SPX. So people can be understood as having two universal dimensions of motivation: agency and communion. Agency refers to the desire to promote the self, and it's represented by our desire for power, mastery, achievement, status, money, that kind of thing. And it would be represented by statements like, I want to make more money, I want to build my business, I want to gain political power. On the other hand, there is communion, and communion represents our desire to live in harmony with other people, to get along, to be moral, and to be loved and to belong. So communion is expressed through statements like, I want to support my family, I want to help my community, I want to fight for justice. So if either of these dimensions is over prioritized or starved, then mental health can suffer. So excessive agency can produce narcissism, avoidance, isolation, and too much communion can create things like people-pleasing, burnout, and resentment. This conflict can be resolved through something called moral integration. Moral integration describes when agency is coordinated with communion. So when this coordination occurs, the dilemma is solved. The right thing to do and what's in one's best interest become one and the same. A person who has integrated sense of morality identifies their communal values as being fundamental to the self, and the morally right action is simultaneously seen as the most self-promoting action. So moral integration is empirically linked to psychological health and well-being. This is thought to occur through several mechanisms, but I'm going to highlight two here. So first, integration fosters a more cohesive sense of self. We're not conflicted between these two competing motivations, and we have like a more integrated sense of self so that it's not like we're battling each other. And this results in a more peaceful, calm experience of the world. Second, agentic strivings are imbued with meaning, which provides sustainable motivation. So if our individual pursuits are promoting something that is deeply meaningful to us, then it gives us this sense of purpose and this energy. It's what helps us get up in the morning to keep doing what we want to do. Now, this results in a kind of virtuous cycle. So agentic goals, they serve a higher purpose, and then that purpose energizes the agentic goals, and the individual accomplishments will result in a more capacity to serve individuals, and then that more capacity makes our contributions more meaningful. And this can be thought of as kind of a recipe for something called eudaimonic well-being. So eudaimonic well-being is a concept that comes from a philosophy, and it's kind of a definition of what it means to be happy. It's different from what we think of it as happiness normally, which is like a pleasurable feeling or that feeling of joy. Eudaimonic well-being defines it more as a quality of life, a way of living. So you could define it as the quality of life derived from developing your capacities to their fullest in pursuit of what is genuinely meaningful. So it's essentially a definition of what it means to live a truly good life. It defines the good life as reaching your full potential as a human being, and then using that in service of something greater, something more meaningful, something that has a true purpose. So in the same way that this model applies to individuals, we can see that similar dilemma playing out on the group level. So movements that prioritize agency, they allow for individual differences, but they sacrifice vision and unity. So people can come together with this common interest, but these movements can tend to fall apart due to diverging perspectives. So an example of this is like something like Occupy Wall Street. So Occupy Wall Street, everybody kind of came together and we all agreed that the financial system's corrupt, something needs to change. But there was no real coherent idea about what we want to do instead. And so even though there was so much energy behind it, it really kind of fizzled out and it did not transform the financial system in the way we would have all wanted. Movements that prioritize communion, on the other hand, they'll achieve a unified vision, but it can only be achieved generally by suppressing individuality. So in order to maintain unity, we tend to have some kind of top-down authority, some kind of leader, something that unifies everyone so that we know, like, what are we all agreeing on? What are we all doing? And if individual differences are allowed, that's going to cause people to disagree, have different opinions. And so the unity of the movement is threatened and it loses coherence. So even if there is, sorry. So examples of movements like this would be things like communism or cults, religious fundamentalism. To keep everyone unified, there needs to be some kind of top-down leader, and then it will trend towards more rigidity, more control, and in order to maintain that unity. So this brings me to SPX6900. So SPX6900, is an internet native movement built around a cryptocurrency token and a simple binary objective: flip the stock market. So this sounds like a delusional joke, but it's actually communicating a sophisticated coordination strategy using jokes and memes as a vessel to communicate the message. So let me explain. The modern financial system is no longer working for younger generations. And rather than protest or demand reform from above, SPX proposes a constructive solution to this problem. Redirect liquidity from traditional markets like the S&P 500 and divert it. Right, that's right. Boo. And divert it into a single alternative asset. So if younger generations just collectively agreed, let's just stop supporting the traditional system, and instead we coordinate and we divert all of our investment behavior into an alternative asset, two things are going to happen. The value of traditional assets will stop going up or they will drop, and the value of the alternative asset will rise instead. So the message can be summed up as sending one specific message across all of society. If we all just opt out of the system together, then we force the financial system to serve us. So this is essentially describing a transfer of wealth. But unlike other political movements, this strategy does not require any coercion, no cooperation from governments or top-down authority, no violence. It's simply actualized through coordinated investment behavior. It's basically about we are asserting a new reality rather than asking some kind of top-down authority to change it for us. And let me highlight just a few elements of the movement that are just crucial to understand my perspective. So first of all, it's a single, simple mission. Just flip the stock market by opting out of traditional finance. Second, it's something where everyone benefits. If the mission is successful, everyone who participates will benefit, and it appeals to anybody who feels trapped by the traditional financial system. Third, it is radically decentralized. So there's no central authority. It's completely voluntary. It's permissionless, and you could participate in any way you want. You could create art. You can create memes. You could create music. You could do pretty much anything, or just buy and hold the token. And then fourth, the meme coin itself functions as a kind of viral broadcasting mechanism for the movement's message. It is the central coordination signal that enables people to operate in unity together. So I'll just go into that just a little bit to explain how that works. So as the token price rises, it generates curiosity, attention, and social proof. So nothing will get headlines better than an asset that people don't understand that goes up in value. So that is why everybody knows about Bitcoin. That's why everyone knows about the GameStop movement. It is like nothing's going to generate headlines better than that. And so the attention and the social proof of that that results from that price leads to more believers. More people are exposed to the underlying philosophy, the underlying memes, and it creates new people that are that believe in the message. And then as there are new believers, there's more investment activity. So as there's more investment activity, the price goes up, there's more attention, and then as there's more attention, new believers, until this message is spread to all of society. And that's what makes it possible for humans in like mass are able to have mass coordination on a scale without any kind of central authority kind of leading the way. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about how SPX6900 solves its agency and communion dilemma. So the fact that it's a single mission, there is like, it's just flip the stock market. We could have all sorts of opinions on everything else, but we're unified in this one goal. Second of all, the goal is binary. So there's no real arguments about, well, like, did we achieve the mission or not? It's a yes or no. And if it's a no, then we keep going. Third, it is constructive. So it's not about agreeing that we don't like something or saying this needs to change. It's about envisioning a new reality that we believe in, and we just come together and assert it. We don't need any permission. We don't need anyone to solve our problems for us. We have solved the problem. We come together, and then we just make it happen. And then fourth, I said it's universally desirable. So it appeals to anyone who feels like the system is unfair, and that pretty much describes most people these days. And it's this combination of simplicity and universal desirability that enables such diverse populations to come together, even though they have competing interests. So you could be on the left, you could be on the right, you could be fundamentalist Christian, you could be an atheist. We could disagree on literally every political issue that exists, and yet we can all kind of come together as long as we realize that this mission is in our best interest. We could all cooperate and coordinate together to get this done. And this is how we can actually stay unified despite maybe disagreeing on every other thing. Okay, so now that we've seen how SPX resolves the initial dilemma, I want to talk about the underlying dynamics that result in a synergistic integration of agency and communion, and it creates this self-reinforcing cycle. So you can notice that this represents the exact dynamics I discussed earlier in individuals who have developed moral integration. And I'll just give a high-level overview of how this works before I go into some of the details. So first of all, individual pursuits are energized by meaning and purpose. People experience their individual goals as contributing to something much larger than themselves. And then those individual pursuits feed directly into the communal goal. So every project, every piece of content that someone makes in the context of SPX serves the end goal, which is to strengthen the movement by increasing visibility and spreading the message. And as the community grows and the movement edges closer to its goal, the sense of purpose also increases, and eventually there's financial gains. And these two outcomes then reinforce the individual pursuits that we have, and that then again pushes the movement closer to its goal. So what we have is this loop in which agency and communion continually amplify each other. They're not competing. They're both necessary, and they both fuel each other. So I'm just going to go unpack each aspect of that. So first of all, communal purpose gives meaning to agentic goals. People can translate their personal goals, which would otherwise be their personal private pursuits, and then they direct it towards contributing to the movement. And this gives their agentic goals meaning, purpose, energy, and motivation. Knowing that our talents are going to be appreciated by other people, that we're going to get encouragement, gives us a sense of validation, and it also gives us this sense that we are contributing to something much bigger than ourselves. And if you look at the movement, you'll see countless stories of people finding themselves and discovering and developing talents in service of the mission. So Southern Fried Chad is a good example that immediately comes to mind. He said that he's always wanted to have a YouTube channel, and through SPX, he has built up this audience, and his channel has become like a crucial pillar of this community. And 1% Aeon has been documenting his weight loss journey to lose 69 pounds. So he's turned Yeah. So he's basically turned his personal weight loss journey into this gigantic advertising campaign for SPX. And the community is also encouraging him to keep going. So these are all things that people would have been doing privately anyways. But what SPX does is it translates these personal projects into contributions to a shared mission. The same action now carries this larger communal significance. People feel appreciated, encouraged, and it motivates them to put more energy into their goals. And then next, agentic success fuels the movement. So individuality actually strengthens the movement in a very concrete way. So people are encouraged to develop their own talents and contribute to the movement in whatever way they see fit. And this results in this extreme diversity of talents, and they're all channeled towards the one thing, the one message. And it's like quite literally, diversity is the movement's strength. As people master their craft, whether it's editing, design, music, education, making memes, the overall quality and reach of the SPX messaging increases. The movement becomes more persuasive, more visible. It reaches people from all different walks of life, and it becomes more emotionally compelling. So I want to highlight that there's a sense where there's almost a responsibility or a duty to figure out who you are and become the best person that you can be. To be strong, healthy, to develop your talents. It's almost like there's a duty to flourish as an individual. The better you become as an individual, the more you discover yourself and develop your innate talents, the more powerful your contribution to the movement, and the more valuable you become to the community, and the more meaning you feel in your life. So the success of the movement loops back and fuels individual agency. So as SPX grows, individuals feel their efforts become increasingly consequential in a few different ways. So first, the movement's growth in itself increases this feeling that we are participating and contributing to something greater. As the movement becomes more influential, that sense of this really matters, this is really changing the world, increases. So our individual actions become more meaningful with time. And then on another level, our individual ambitions can generate larger impact. So a video that maybe you made that 5 people watched suddenly is going to be seen by 10, 100 people, 1,000 people. And so that gives validation as the movement grows. And then finally, there's the financial incentive. So as participation grows and the token appreciates in price, supporters experience tangible material gains. So those gains can be used to do things like, buy better equipment or free up time. And it's in a very literal sense feeding back into our capacity to act as free individuals. And I mentioned the financial system or the financial incentive last for a reason. At the end of the day, financial freedom is necessary, but it's not sufficient for true individual agency. People who are primarily motivated by money are handicapped because money is inherently meaningless. It doesn't add meaning to your life, and so if that's your primary focus, you don't get to benefit from this virtuous cycle. The SPX movement, I think, is succeeding precisely because it understands this at a deep, intuitive level. It understands that the true success of a social movement only comes when it prioritizes individual flourishing, not money. So financial success is more the inevitable consequence, but it's not the first priority. And to use traditional investment terminology, the fundamental value of SPX is that it promotes human flourishing. That's the reason why it's going to be successful and why the price will rise or why it is truly valuable. And as with any stock or corporation, the monetary value of the token is really just a reflection of that deeper fundamental value. So I'm going to zoom out again and just put this together. So if we step back from the details, what we're looking at is a kind of self-perpetuating system. Individual flourishing is directed to the communal purpose. Communal purpose gives meaning to individuals. That meaning further fuels individual growth, and this in turn promotes the communal purpose. The growth of the movement feeds the individual, and the growth of the individual feeds the movement. And we can look at this system at two different levels. So if we're looking at it from through the lens of like a social movement, then it operates as kind of like this self-energizing and self-perpetuating coordination system. It doesn't depend on constant external pressure, funding, or coercion to keep going. As long as the basic conditions remain, so there's a simple shared goal and aligned incentives, the system tends to sustain and amplify itself. So it's essentially the social movement equivalent of nuclear fusion. And if we look at this through the lens of the individual, it's like, I think of it as a human flourishing machine. It gives believers a sense of meaning and purpose while simultaneously motivating them to reach their full potential as individual humans. So, in other words, SPX can be understood as a social movement that both promotes and is fueled by eudaimonic well-being. Promotes and is fueled by individual flourishing. And so, in conclusion, SPX6900 is much more than a cryptocurrency coin. And if you came to this talk skeptical, I just hope that people can see that this is at least a very psychologically interesting movement. And if you're already part of SPX, my hope is that you leave with a clear sense of this larger pattern that we're all participating in. Thank you for listening to my talk. Thank you.
Great chance, to just a couple of minutes. Okay.
Questions? Yeah, we have questions. I have questions.
Right.
So I find it very interesting, and I'm glad that you put the financial aspect last.
Mm-hmm.
Because what I've been learning since I've been in this group is this is the first time in cryptocurrency for me that, again, when everybody else is panicking,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm in this group, I don't worry about anything.
Right.
Because it's almost like a byproduct, right? The
Mm-hmm.
financial aspect is a byproduct of Chad having 220,000 automatic people that are possible to use. You having an audience right now online that's 220,000 people, and people taking from this, whatever. So it was very interesting. I'm happy to see that as a keynote speaker, you put the financial aspect as basically a byproduct. If you live your good life and if
Mm-hmm.
you participate in the collective, that will come without worry. And it's interesting because now you don't worry. Like for instance, I have a couple other businesses that got a little rocky this last month or two. And what kept me sane was, I'm an SPX. Like, I don't have to worry about that because I know this collective is going to take up even bigger than it is. So, thank you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I would say that when we're thinking about money, we're living in fear. And when we live in fear, we make really stupid decisions and mistakes. We essentially act like it's a trauma response. And we're not really thinking with our heads. And if we just focus on becoming the best people that we can be, finance and stuff usually comes as a consequence of that. Sorry, yes, you.
In your own, I'd like to know in your own life, what do you see flourishing, and like for you?
Yeah, I think personally, it's there's I guess there's a lot of things. I think it's helped me think about finance a little bit more. So I think this is essentially what SPX is teaching is essentially what I do as like a psychotherapist. I'm just like teaching people or like how to live without fear and to live intentionally. And this has taught me that as well. So it's like you can know the theory and everything. But you know, when it comes to like finance, right? It's scary. Finance is scary, right? I don't feel that fear. Sorry.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
I have one more question because it just hit me.
Sure.
So when we talk about utility, is a perfect example. I believe I'm not sure the answer, but so has SPX actually made your thesis in the PhD easier?
Yeah, it's kind of made me think about. It's actually kind of expanded what I want to do with my research and everything. So I've been working on this idea, this moral integration stuff, for my whole kind of career as a researcher. This is my thing, and finding that SPX has
Is this like a live case study?
It's a live case study, but on a group level as well. So it's like we're teaching each other how to do this rather than like having a therapist kind of teach you or whatever. It's like we're all providing therapy on each other, right? The movement is healing us. Yeah. Sorry, that person at the back there. Yeah.
So this might be a little bit of a complex question, and you know, you can take your time on answering this.
Yeah.
It's no pressure, but like all the pressure too, because I do expect an answer now.
All right.
What has more S's and P's? What has more S's and P's?
I'm not actually sure. Guys, can you help me out here?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the answer is SPX6900, right? Yo, let's go.
It might be. I think it might be.
Hey, when does this book come out, man?
You know, it might come out at some point. The more I write about this, the more I want to keep writing. And yeah, SPX really just, it teaches you so much. So we'll see.
Let's put the book.
Give me a few years. Thank you very
so
much.
much.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Amazing lecture. A lot of materials preparation. I'll definitely, I think we'll keep discussing this like further online and people will watch. And yeah, are there any questions from audience, your online audience chat? No?
That's really excellent.
Thank you very much.
When did you find SPX, or how did you find it?
Murad, and like in November when he did the talk, but then I had to kind of rethink about my whole concept of what value means in terms of money. So like basically first principles from the ground up, like what does it mean to be, what's good, what's value, what's a good investment, one that improves your life, not like one that goes up in number, but if your life improves, like if you're feeling stressed all the time, and it's affecting your family, I don't care how much money you're making, it's a bad investment, right? Just like first principles, like what's good and what's bad. What's a good, does it make your life better? Right. And then kind of, I figured out, okay, this is what a good investment should be. And then I was like, oh, there's all these people that are doing it already. Cool. Right. And then that's when it clicked for me.
Awesome.
It took a while.